Hey guys, so I'm going to make a little explanation video on my store and how I'm able to get the store button as well as store button and the inventory button and UI all worked out. So hopefully I can be able to explain this very well. So I'll kind of go through um, everything and then I'll kind of go through the scripts of how it works. So yeah. So um, So right now, I have let me pull up the inventory panels. So I first have made a store panel, just normal panel, and then in that, let me actually go to it right here. Inside the store panel, I have created several buttons as well as additional panels. Um, so each of these buttons right here will call a animation. Like for instance, this right here, the power up store button, we'll call the power up object and we'll bring that panel into place. And then in addition to that, I've also made, where they are, right here, each, like these panel color, I have made two buttons that will also call on a animation um, that will switch between the objects and the color depending on the either paddle ball backgrounds or power ups. But for the actual panels themselves that hold the store slash inventory items, I have made, so in the panel, I have added a grid layout group. Mine, I have set, actually, I probably should bring this up too. I have, oops, I forgot to turn off my settings panel because I don't. So right here, actually we'll do the backgrounds. Should be more prepared. Hey. Like right here, I have my grid layout from the left side. I've set at 50 and the top I've set at 50. And the cell size I have set at 400 by 400. And the spacing of each one I have set to 170 and then by 5. And then in addition to that, I have an inventory configure behavior script that controls the inventory, the store, all that jazzy stuff. And it takes an event. So yeah, actually I can pull it up probably, but we'll explain it first. So it references a inventory data object. So in my scriptable objects, I have created various data objects. So I've created a inventory item that holds, the price, preview art, game art, materials, used or purchase, all that stuff. And then I've created a data which takes a variety of items and puts it in a list and takes the reference to a currency item. So with this inventory data, I go back to my background or the my background panel that I have made, and then I reference that specific background inventory data to this panel. So each panel that you create, if it's like a background or a character skin or like a color for a power up, has to each have their own uh, inventory data. They have to be separate, or you're going to get mixes and stuff like that. Unless you want to have just one store, then I guess you could all have it in one inventory data. But I have mine separate into 4 different things. And then from there, I have a reference to my inventory UI as well as store UI prefab, which those prefabs are these buttons. So I've this button as well as this button. But before that, I'm going to go to, I say it was the inventory configure. So let's hide Copilot. So in this right here, I have an add items to UI. So this right here will take, oops, I actually probably should go one step back and go to interfaces. So to make this all work, you have to have an interface script. And by the way, all these scripts are in my GitHub repository if you ever need them or would like to have access to them. So in this Git repository, I have reference to an index, a list, a collection of lists, as well as a configure instance game objects. So this is just a game object. So first I make an interface store item, which has a price, whether or not it's used or like purchased or not, then get the sprite, a 2D image, and then I have a game object, so be able to get the game object. I actually haven't been able to get this to work, but I have it in here when I'm able to get it to work. And then I also have it referenced to a material, so I can preview material if needed, and then get the string name, so I can have it named to be able to easy access. And then it's the exact same thing, but for an inventory item, inventory. The only difference is I have this int level and float level. Excuse me. As well as a game action. So these int levels are for like RPG stuff. If you want to have a certain level of like high level, low level item, and then this game object, you can have it so like an end game thing happens when you click the item, something happens. It triggers this. And then it references this void rise from my game action script, which I will go over. And then this just right. I'm not using this right now, but I have it just in case, so we won't worry about that. But then I go back to this. And then so it's getting that inventory, and then if it's true, I am getting the element, instantiating the UI prefab, which goes back to this button. So the inventory will use the use button, game object, and then the trend position. Same thing for the store. If the item is not purchased, create an instance, but a store item prefab game object, which is getting the store button. And then configures the element, which is this whole script right here. So this right here generates, so if it's an inventory item, it will get the component of the UI button behavior, which I'll go in a little bit. If it's not null, return, and then create a button and put the prefab art to the image. If there's a material, set the material image or add the material to it. Get the name. I have if it's purchased or not. Make the toggle checked. An inventory item, and then if it's not null, then I need to listen. Click add listen event, which inventory item dot rise, which I'll go over that a little bit. And then if not, then make it interactable is true. And then I have added to this script just to configure the button on the grid size. So I'm able to take the label and button and then position them based on these factors. So all that is for just the inventory item. All that's the exact same for the store item. Create a price, add it to the price, toggle, whether or not it's true or false, and whatnot. So hopefully, it's probably not a very great well explained that, but yeah. And then I have a function that's add all inventory items to UI. I will take, so in this function, obviously we take this whole thing and activate it. Take the inventory data object that holds all of the list of stuff and adds it to the screen inventory. Same thing except for the store. These are just test functions, so we won't go into those at this moment. So yeah, so that's the inventory config. And then got this inventory button, which controls the button itself. So I have the button, so it gets the button, and then I have a game action. So for mine, I use a game action for sprites as well as materials. And then I have make an event for sprites as well as materials. You have to keep those separate. If it makes a whole lot of mess if you don't keep them separate. And I get the text, and then I get the sprite as well as the material. Actually, I think I'm not using those. I have to check. I can't remember. So don't worry about that. And then I need to access the iInventory as well. So in the awake function, I'm getting the button. I am getting the label, the text mesh pro, as well as that if it's not null, I need to activate this listen function right here. And this right here will determine if it's the inventory button. This will activate once you press it. If it's a preview art, 2D art, I will access the art, access the game action, which I'll go over in a minute, and then do the Unity event, and the same thing for the preview material. So in my game actions, I have modified it to have a execute action for sprites, as well as an execute action for material textures. You need to have these if you want to, these are specified for sprites and materials. Obviously, these are specified for, like floats, ints, objects, but you need to have this if you want to have like textures and sprites. So yeah, that's the game action that you need to implement. And then the store button, I don't think I modified, but yeah, because it's just referencing the inventory button. So I don't think I added anything. We'll go over it anyways. So yeah, it's just like the same as the inventory button. It accesses a purchased and no purchased, cache, gets label, toggle, and then make sure it's set to a store item. Links it on awake. So the base.awake is accessing this awake function. And then gets the toggle, price, button, whatnot. Makes the attempt purchase. So this right here accesses the purchased event. So if you have enough, cash, then, oh yeah, this right here is, ooh, whoops, I forgot to turn that off. Yeah, don't worry about that. Sets it to false and then makes the purchased event, and then it will add it to the inventory item. Okay, and then I'll show you how I set that up. So in my store panel, I have a button event. So I reference the store panel into the button event, and then I go down to inventory config button, and then I will want to add all store item inventories to UI. And then I will want to reference, actually that's a test feature, don't worry about that. I think, maybe not. Actually, it's not. So you would want to add the purchased event, I forgot. Add the purchased game action and rise it. Obviously, you need to reference the scriptable object you have, and then reference the inventory UI to store button, and then store UI prefab to store button as well. You want to make sure those are both store button for these store panels. And the inventory is quite the same, except on here, when you reference the inventory button, you will want to add, oops, that's the wrong one. You want to add all inventory items to UI. So if it's a UI panel, it needs to be all inventory UI. And then access the same inventory data that so like the paddle accesses the same paddle inventory item. And then this one, you only want to grab the use button, the inventory button. That's the only one you want to put in there. Okay, and then so that's how you get the store to work. And then obviously to add it to it, so like if you wanted to change your background, so we'll do background as an example. If I can find it, where did I put it? Oh, it's in the play background. So I have added my background as a prefab, and then in that prefab, I have a sprite behavior script, which is getting my sprite behavior. Material behavior. So I'll use material behavior. Same exact thing for my sprite behavior. I'm getting the mesh render, game object, or game action, and calling an event. And then I have a changed mesh renderer, same as the sprite. It will be changed sprite. It will get the renderer object, so the mesh renderer dot shared material. If it's a material texture, you want to have it shared material, or it won't work. And then you want to have it equal the game object dot mesh object dot shared material as well. That way it will be able to change the material of the object itself. Same as that thing for a sprite behavior. And then you want to, for your game action, you want to reference the Unity game action that was referenced for the inventory as well as store panel for your thing. And then you want to, in this, you want to add that prefab. So like my background is added to this right here. So it references that to be able to call and change the sprite. And then in here, you'd want to write action, background, and make sure it's changed render sprite or changed, mesh material or texture or whatnot. So yeah, so that's hopefully I explained. That was tried to be a more in-depth explanation of it. Why do I always forget to? I need to turn that off. So yeah, so like inventory, backgrounds, and now when I click that, it calls the call image game action, which is referenced to the background, and then every time I click it, it changes the background. Same thing with the paddle. Oops. Keep on the wrong one. It will change it as well. So yeah, hopefully that explains it a little longer than I thought it was going to be, but just skip through and whatnot. Like I said before, all the scripts are in my GitHub repository. Everything's in the GitHub repository if you ever want to download that and play around with it yourself. Hopefully that helps. If you have any comments, just put them in the comments below or message me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.